I would like to welcome everybody to the Aim High, Spend Less channel. Today we're going to be doing something that I haven't done in the past but would like to do more of in the future. It's a nice comparison video. One of my favorite handguns, the xd9, a newer offering, the xd9 Mod 3 with a crimson trace from the factory, and an old faithful Glock19 in their latest offering, non-MOS, but still a Gen 5. Again, do the same thing you did that time. Nice job. Just relax and just squeeze the trigger. Slightly forward, a little high. Nice job. Next one. Little high. Nice job. Come back. Empty on the square. Keep your hands in the same position every time. Keep that position. Have it tight. Nice firm grip. You want the bottom of your hand up against the lever. You're doing really good. A little high. Slow down. Nice. Keep going. A little high. Just slow down. Nice job. Keep going until it's empty.
I'm trying.
I think to start today, I'll go with my favorite. And this is just, it's a favorite because I've owned them for years. The first XD I ever owned was a 357 SIG. Springfield acquired this line of pistols from HS out of Croatia in the late 90s or early 2000s. The original one was the HS 2000. They were, and still continue to be, solid offerings. I find them more comfortable. I enjoy a lot of the features more than some of the features on the Glock. But I enjoy Glock too. But anyway, this is a xd9 Brazilian law enforcement overrun. You can have this for a very, very inexpensive price considering what I've paid for XDs in the past. In the center we have the xd9 Mod 3 CT for Crimson Trace. Some definite improvements, some things about these that I like more, but it's still very similar. Not a big separation. Does have the cuts for an optic. This one came with this optic for, again, an amazing price, under $4 Benjamins. Over here we have the Glock19. Very comfortable gun, very well built, fun to shoot. Compact grip versus the full length grip of the xd9 and the xd9 Mod 3. You can get these in a full grip, like a 19X. You can go to a 17 and have longer barrel. There's a few more things there, but I find it a very enjoyable gun to shoot. It gives me the same mag capacity as these in a shorter concealable package. It definitely shot as well as the other two. I had no malfunctions in any of them. So today we're going to talk about a few 9mm. 9mm, handguns in general, are a very hot and heavily feuded topic. Everybody has their favorite. Every manufacturer is the best or the worst. I don't get involved in that. I'm just going to let you guys know what I found, what I like, what I don't like, and go from there. To start the review off, I'll start with the one that I'm the most familiar with in the lineup in general. The Springfield Armory XD9. Over the years, I have owned many XDs. I've had them in 357 SIG, 40, 45, and 9mm. I've had 5-inch. I've had the 4-inch. I've had, I don't know if they had the compact. I had a compact 45. I believe the compact 45 was a 4-inch. It's been so many years since I had that. So variety of grips, combinations. I've had the XDS. I've had the XDM. The one that I didn't like the most was the XD45 compact. I felt like it was very cumbersome. The heavy weight combined with the extremely short grip length was a challenge to shoot in its compact form. It did come with an extended mag. That extended mag made it shoot well, but was certainly not something you could carry. And anyway, I traded that in at the gun store for something else. The XDM45 I felt was large and cumbersome. Was definitely not something that I could carry. Had a hard time getting my hand around it. It certainly is nothing like what this XD9 is. So I got a chance to put some rounds through this one the other day. I've fired so many rounds of 40 and 9mm out of an XD that I don't feel like I have to worry too much about the durability. I've never had a failure. It's not the, in my opinion, just by feel, it's not the lightest in the group, but I haven't weighed them yet. So let's see what we got. So let's weigh it with a full mag. We got 16 rounds. 2.27 pounds. One thing I was interested in feeling is, or measuring, is how much the slide weighs. In shooting these, I had a easier time keeping the Glock and the XD on target. The XD Mod 3, and it may have just been the optic. I think I need to remove the optic and shoot this without it to give it a fair comparison. I don't think the optic weighs a lot, but I'm not as experienced with an optic, and I just had a terrible time keeping it on target, which you'll probably see in my videos. But I hope to get better at it. We'll start with the bare slide. 11.7 ounces. That'd be really heavy. 3.4 and 1.0. So altogether, 1 pound. Let's compare the Glock. I do find that I like the takedown lever of the XD more than I like the takedown lever or a takedown of the Glock. So we got 12.3 ounces, 3.7 ounces, 0.7. For a total of 1.6. So only a slight difference there. In comparing, it's quite a difference in recoil springs. I feel like the upgraded springs are in the Gen 5 21 made that a nicer shooter than other 45s I've shot in the past that are similar. Be interesting to get some method of testing the spring pressure. I'm sure I could research it, but I don't want to come off like I'm reading off a piece of paper right now. Just very similar in construction, very clean designs, very simple. It's what you got. At least with the Glock, you don't have any extra steps. You don't have to worry about flipping that lever, which I've never not flipped the lever forward on a XD after disassembly. It really isn't that bad. I just have to get used to it. Sometimes with my fingers, it's a little tough to get in there. I kind of feel the same way about the slide lock. At least with the Glock, it is ambidextrous. On the Springfield, it is not. On the Glock, there is no grip safety. On Springfield XDs, you do have a grip safety. Can be cumbersome, especially in an offhand situation. In the past, I did shoot some tactical type training, and it was something I did a lot. And if you got in a situation where you had to use your left hand, if you're right-handed, if you had to, shoot like bandaged, we got to try a lot of situations, and if you didn't get this just right, it could have caused you to not fire. Both the Glock and the Springfield utilize a similar safety on the trigger. I know Glock now has a fantastic trigger offering from their performance shop. I have not shot one yet. I plan on putting one in the 19. They do not make it for the 21 that I know of, unless it's a newer release. It's amazing that the XD, for the size, even though, like when we said in the comparison, lengthwise, 16 on the XD, 15 on the Glock. I did have some trouble with the Glock mags when I got to the 15th. This one doesn't even, actually, I did just realize it doesn't have the 15th round. I couldn't get it in, and I could get it on the new XD mags that I have. And I have a bunch of old XD mags that take it very easily, but they are well worn. It wouldn't be a fair comparison. One thing I didn't do was do the Glock with a full. Now we have 2 extra rounds in the other. Total weight, 1 pound, 13.6. Just see. So, 0.4 ounces per round. So, 0.8. Now on to the Mod 3. As I said, when I shot this one, there was a significant difference in felt recoil. And not having researched this, it was a very spur of the moment purchase. I don't know if there was revisions there. There's a fair amount of change in the slide serrations. I like that they added some more forward. Those are nice in a situation where you need to get a hold of it. There are some small serrations in the front of the XD, the first release. They did add a difference in the grip safety, and I think that's a worthwhile modification. If I could do that to these, and I'll have to look around and see, it may be something worth doing. While they don't have a standard locking safety, they do have a grip safety on the XD series They also have their ultra safety assurance, or USA safety. Basically prevents the trigger from being pulled unless your finger is fully engaged. So if I try to pull it, you see it doesn't work. Pull it here. Also, if I don't have this pressed, nothing happens. On the Glock, they use the safe action system. Clear. So, same kind of thing. Unable to pull the trigger until you press the center lever. I picked up this Lyman trigger pull gauge. So far, it's not bad. The only thing I don't like is the battery cover on the back is really easy when you're trying to pull, and obviously these can have some pretty substantial trigger pull. Another issue is that getting the pull in the same spot on the trigger every time, depending on which trigger you were looking at, because the XD Mod 3 has more of a flat trigger, so it likes to go to the bottom, which gives it a pretty substantial difference in pull weight, especially considering what these are. And then the Glock is the way it is. As you pull back, it wants to roll off of the trigger. So anyway, let's go back to the xd9. Have to do the grip safety. All right, see what we got here. Oop, hit ready. One. Two. Three. Oh, that one jumped up there. Gives us an average 5 pounds, 11 ounces. Move on to the XD Mod 3. Clear our average. Okay. Try to get in that same position. Hit ready. Need 3 hands. See what I mean? It's really hard on that flat trigger, which might be an advantage while you're shooting it. It's a very long trigger. I'm going to redo all that. Clear. Ready. That's better. Seems like more where it should be. I feel like sub 4 is more to do with the length of the trigger and pulling at the end of that flat. wasn't a pull. And let me just show you, if I pull at the bottom of this long trigger that this has, it breaks. Which, honestly, the way your finger fits in here, you know, it's... So I don't know if that's totally inaccurate. I feel like this trigger does give you a bit of an advantage, nice bit of leverage. Whereas the XD is forcing you to ride in the center. Well, it does put some pressure on the base of your finger. So maybe in some ways these pull weights are speculative. Anyway, let's move on to the Glock. All right, so we're ready. Try to get onto that trigger. 510. Five, 10. And a little more. 6. Let's try that one more time. And 5.9. So one of the things you'll notice when shooting these pistols, outside of reset differences, pull weight, etc., the XD trigger remains in this position even when it, you know, and I'll get where I'm going here. So if you see the position of the XD trigger, it never changes from once the action is, the slide has been set, trigger stays there, right? Fire it, trigger returns. So when you have your reset, which is pretty long, you know, it's a cheap stock trigger. If you look at the Glock, and this is a major thing that a lot of Glock shooters enjoy. So here we are in the extended position. Fire, the trigger stays back, right? So the XD, when this pistol is cocked and ready to go, has a pin on the back to let you know, hey, by the way, you are ready to go. But it also has a shell indicator, and at this point we know that the pistol is empty. But our hammer is back, or striker. So much longer reset. I don't mind it. I tend to just, when I'm shooting, just override it. Nothing really changes on the Mod 3. Trigger in the position, returns there. Still have the striker indicator on the back, and we do have, which is harder to see with the optic on there, you do have an indicator. Similar reset to the xd9 original, slightly less. Pull weight's a little less on this, for me anyway. But again, on the Glock, you can see where it is. Pull, trigger stays, you know you're not ready to go. You have no play in the trigger. And then the reset, much shorter. The factory Glock trigger is better in many ways. $100 and something. I don't sell them, so let's not focus on that. But let's see what we can do if we can hit the. Now we're going to move on to the Glock19. All right, back on the xd9. Try to move a little quicker. A good summary of the last few weeks with these. 12 to 1400 rounds. I kind of lost a little track between the three. I still like the full-length, full-size grip of the xd9. It's comfortable. I'm comfortable with them. They shoot well. They're dependable. I really don't have a lot of complaints. I think the trigger lacks on the xd9 versus the Glock19, but you also get them for a lower price, especially the Brazilian overrun. There's nothing exemplary about them other than the fact they work. I mean, I like the takedown more. The overall feel, the weight is very close. Obviously, we saw the Glock was lighter, but most of that is in the frame. The Mod 3 is more comfortable than the first gen. I do like the slide cuts. The factory sights on this are awesome. The trigger on this is better, and I'll say that the trigger on the Mod 3 is better than the Glock. I think they could have done a little more in the grip. I do like the stippling. I like the finger grooves. I think this little kind of slippery center section leaves room for improvement. But again, you're talking about a gun that costs less than $400. The controls in the gun are nice. You don't have the ambidextrous slide control. I like the takedown on the XD more. This gun worked well. I had more problems initially with my sight picture coming back on, but initially I was shooting it with the optic. I've removed the optic. I put it back on. The one thing I can say is for the price point with the optic, I can shoot better with this than any of the other two, but that's an obvious statement. I mean, the optic gives you all the advantage in the world. For whatever reason, the CT1200 isn't available anymore, but I had no problems with the optic. I felt like it worked very well. In the future, shooting this with an optic or any pistol. As I get used to it, I think I have to modify my grip, find where I'm more comfortable, play around with some different holds, some different pressures, and see what I can do better. The Glock 19, it was fantastic all the way through. If I was to rate the three of them, I still think I would rate the 19 higher, but it is also more expensive. Just the fit and finish, the trigger from the factory has a lot more to offer. While I find the trigger on the Mod 3 better, I think there's just, this one still would rate higher, and you have the option of the factory performance trigger, which I have one to go in this, and I'll be playing with that in the future. I don't think that the extra grip safeties, I think they kind of take away from these a little bit, but once you get used to them, you kind of forget about it. I do like having the indicator to know when I'm ready to go, and the indicator letting me know that I have one in the chamber. But on the Glock, you do know when it is cocked and ready to go because of what the trigger does. So, those features to me are important, but also that's something that's left up to the individual to make sure that you know what's going on. I don't like the slide releases on the Glock. I think they suck, but there's aftermarket options. Mag release on the Glock is nice. That fits well. I think the mag release on these, a little more pronounced on the Mod 3. It is less pronounced on the XD, but I've never had a problem with it. Just something about this slide release, I've always liked it. I like it. It just feels better. Obviously, somebody in a left-hand situation is fucked. But, the early mags from my xd9s were all 15, but now there are 16. But I find it, it's amazing that Glock is able to do a 15-round mag in a compact grip. These mags are fairly cheap. I don't even remember what I was paying for these in the past. You do pay more for the Glock, but fit and finish overall, it is a more refined piece. Shooting wise, you don't care which one's in my hand. I think I'm going to do the same with all of them, minus the optic. But I think anybody, whether you want to pay under 300, under 400, or under 6, you're getting a good gun for your money. I think you're getting way more for your money for the Brazilian overrun model, but I haven't even looked to see what XD9s are going for outside of that. I know I played pretty close to the price of the Glock when I bought them originally, but I'm super happy with all of them, and I can't wait. I think I'm going to take these three and see what modifications are available for the XDs. I never really got into modifying my XDs outside of sights, but I want to see what I can do. I may get this one cut, or I may buy an MOS, see what's available there. But, all solid offerings, and not something you'll ever regret with what you choose to use it for, like, what you want out of it. Not nearly as concealable in these two, depending on your size, how you carry. If you carry appendix, I think I'd be more comfortable carrying one of these appendix because of the safeties. Glock leg is one thing, but Glock wiener would be a terrible thing. But plenty of people do it. They carry them. They're safe. They're reliable. They work. Anyway, just my opinion. Just some solid, durable, something you can count on, with a variety of price point, with a variety of offerings. Obviously, Glock has a lot of offerings too now. They've come out with a variety of models to fit your grip length, your barrel length, optic cut, and the price will reflect that. But Springfield did something pretty amazing with this Mod 3. You consider having it cut with an optic for under $400. You can't go wrong there. Yeah, there's some things that could be improved, but this trigger, for what it is, worked very well. And we saw that it actually broke a little lighter. You know, there's some variance there depending on where on the trigger you were with the scale, but you know, I'll buy another one. I'm gonna have to investigate further. You know, there's obviously Springfield has a lot of other offerings now that are closer in price to the Glock, but why pay more if you have something that works with features that fit most of us? Still not ambidextrous, but you know, a nice piece. I like the two-tone, but I'll have to dig around a little more. I think they did a good job with that. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you like, subscribe, and you know, comment on the videos. Let me know what you want to see. I'll do my best to make it happen. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.